Gear abilities are a nice little addition in Splatoon that give your character a certain upgrade during a lobby battle. Whether it's special charge up or ink recovery up, every ability in this game has a purpose in one way or another. But what if that purpose is garbage? Today we're going to be looking back at a bunch of Splatoon gear abilities and discuss the worst ones. Keep two things in mind. 1. My opinion. Don't cry if your favourite gear ability is on this list. 2. We're talking about how bad an ability is for the player, not how bad it is for the meta or the health of the game. Although if we were talking about abilities that are bad for the game, main power up, Splatoon 1 quick respawn, and especially defense and damage up would without a doubt be the worst of the worst. Oh, and also there's going to be chapters in the description in case you want to skip over to the worst one, so yeah. Now without further ado, let's begin. We're going to be splitting the Splatoon 1 abilities against the Splatoon 2 and 3 abilities, because to be honest, the Splatoon 1 abilities are an entirely different plane of existence, starting with the 2 and 3 abilities. Now, the third worst. I gotta go with Thermal Ink. The idea of this ability is that it allows you to see any opponents you hit with your ink that didn't die for a short period of time, which kinda sucks, because if you're playing on a stage without many walls or obstacles, it's not going to be very effective at all. Furthermore, it's going to be pretty rare that you're running a weapon that can't kill an player that you've already done some damage to. And I know some of you are probably thinking, well, it'll be pretty effective if you used it on bombs, and you'd be right, if it wasn't for the fact that it doesn't work on bombs. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, Thermal Ink only works on your main weapon. Adding onto that, it needs to be a direct shot from the weapon, so indirect blaster shots and explosion shots are completely ineffective. So yeah, Thermal Ink is pretty worthless in my opinion. Okay, so I was constantly debating whether to rank this one higher than Thermal Ink. I know some of you guys are probably going to disagree with me in this one. I think the Thermal Ink should be higher than it, but here we go. Haunt. The idea of Haunt is that if you get spotted by an enemy, you'll be temporarily able to see said enemy. Now, in Splatoon 1, this was in effect with a system that was very similar to the point sensor system, but in Splatoon 2 and 3, it uses the same system as, well, the Thermal Ink system. So pretty much take every single thing that I said about Thermal Ink's wall issue and apply it here. Now, it does have one pretty good advantage, that being the little buff that I got in Splatoon 2 3.0, but even then I still don't like it that much. Why? Well, to me it just feels very situational. Like, you have to die for it to take effect, and if you're a very skilled player who doesn't really intend on dying, like, let's say you're a charger, what good would you get from Haunt? Because for the most part, you're just going to be, if you're a charger, you're more likely going to be running Respawn Punisher. And honestly, I just think that it's much more effective to have Respawn Punisher on and have Point Split Sensor on. That's a much better combo than running Haunt in my opinion. So in my opinion, Haunt again isn't bad, but it's just so situational, even more situational than Thermal Ink, which is why I consider it worse. Okay, so the previous abilities I mentioned here are pretty good in certain situations, and they aren't completely useless, but my number one choice is so bad, so fundamentally worthless that it was removed from Splatoon 2. Yeah, I'm not kidding. It was straight up removed from Splatoon 2, and it doesn't show up in Splatoon 3. And if you haven't already figured it out, I'm of course talking about Cold Blooded. What did Cold Blooded do? It reduced the amount of time of, well, point sensor, Thermal Ink, and other tracking abilities, and how long they were effective for. Now this is a fine ability in a void, but there's a few issues here. 1, it didn't need to be a separate ability. 2, it didn't need to be a separate ability. And 3, it didn't need to be a separate ability. Thing is, unless you're running a weapon like Carbon Roller or Nocto Rush, being caught by point sensor isn't that big of a deal. Just retreat for a little bit or go hide in some ink. It's not really that big of a deal. Cold Blooded just doesn't need to exist. It's a good ability that does its job, but in the grand scheme of things, it just isn't very effective because why would anyone focus on a build of point sensor? It's just kind of dumb. It's just kind of worthless when you can just very simply hide away for a little bit, or just wait for the point sensor effect to wear out. Like, bomb defense up is much more useful because getting damage from a bomb is a serious issue, but getting hit with a point sensor, like, that's not the end of the world. You're not going to be completely screwed by getting hit by a point sensor. And luckily the devs understood this, because in update 4.3, Cold-Blooded was gone and replaced with Bomb Defense Up DX, which combines the abilities of Bomb Defense Up and Cold-Blooded, which is honestly a really good idea. Nice going, Nintendo. Too bad this update is also where they added main power up, but that's a story from the day. Alright, now those were the Splatoon 2 and 3 abilities. Now let's move on to the real stinkers, Splatoon 1's gear abilities. Let's start off with one that could have arguably been in the Splatoon 2 and 3 list, but I think it was at its worst over here. Opening Gambit. The idea of this ability was that for the first 30 seconds of the match, you got both a swim speed and a run speed boost. Do I really need to say anything else? It doesn't matter whether you're in a turf game or in a ranked game, 30 seconds for 2 buffs I could easily get anywhere else? Are you out of your damn mind? Oh my days, this ability, oh my god. Okay, so why didn't I talk about this in Splatoon 2 and 3? Well, in Splatoon 2 3.0, it was buffed so that any kill that you get with Opening Gambit on will extend the time by 7.5 seconds. And Splatoon 3, update 3.10, this was buffed even more to last for 30 seconds after every kill. Keep in mind that this even counts assists using point sensor, which is honestly just fantastic. And yeah, the ability still isn't perfect, but pretty damn good right now. So yeah, it's much better than Splatoon 1 version, and yeah, Splatoon 1 version was awful, absolutely terrible. Now let's move on to our number 2, which is one of the 5 abilities that never returned, or was pretty much just revamped in another way. We've already talked about the damage and defense up, so let's talk about our third non-return E, and the second worst ability jump in my opinion. Bomb range up was a stackable ability and it sucked ass. Its name says it all. It increased the range of your bomb. Now, I could see this being useful for point sensor, I guess. But otherwise, what advantage do you really get from bomb range up? Unless you really like taking the time to calculate your throws, it's really just not that useful. Oh, and did I forget to mention that half of the subs in Splatoon 1 aren't affected by this ability? Yeah, if you use any of these subs, sucks to be you, I guess. Do I really need to say anything else? This ability is just useless. You want some more range? Walk a few steps further. It's not that hard. I guess I should probably mention this, but in Splatoon 2 and Splatoon 3, bomb range up was basically replaced with sub up. Yeah, sub up. I guess that's what you would call it. And it basically increased the viability of every single sub ability, which makes it much better, and it fixes one of the main problems I had with bomb range up, being the fact that it only really worked on one ability, or that only really worked on some bombs, and of the other bombs were completely unaffected. But sub up basically fixes and negates that issue. So yeah. Honestly, when I was writing this script, I was fully prepared to put bomb range up as the absolute worst. But while I was looking through the wiki, I found another ability. An ability that was so bad that I erased it from my mind. And when I saw this ability on the wiki, I was like Yagami getting his memories back. This is the 4th non-returning ability. Actually, that's not true. This ability is actually in Splatoon 3 and I think maybe Splatoon 2. I don't know if it is in Splatoon 2, I never checked. But I don't even know if some of you guys even noticed that this ability is there. I've teased your balls for long enough. The worst Splatoon gear ability of all time, in my opinion, is Recon. No, not that Recon, this Recon. This ability is absolute garbage, absolutely awful. So what does it do, you may ask? Well, it allows you to see your opponent's locations and weapons. Keep in mind that back in Splatoon 1 you couldn't actually see the player's weapons. You're probably thinking, what the hell, Aniki, this sounds like an amazing ability. Well, I haven't mentioned two major drawbacks. 1. This ability only works on the spawner. Yes, that's right. In order for this ability to work, you have to be at the spawning location. Do I even need to say anything? People can obviously move a lot between the time it takes for you to see them on the spawner for the time it takes you to get there on mid. But Aniki, Raycon could be very good if you want to super jump back into spawn. It could let you know if it's a safe area to super jump to. Wow, that's a good point. If only there was an ability chunk that made it so that super jumping was completely safe and not allowed any opponents to see you at all. Oh, wait. And if only there was another Splatoon 1 ability that allowed you to see where all your opponents are and basically works for you and all of your teammates. Oh, wait. And guess what? That's only one reason for why this ability is ass. The second reason? Well, remember how back in Splatoon 1 the map was basically on the gamepad? Yeah, this ability only really works on the gamepad. There's no point sensor system, there's no thermal system. But you basically had to look down at your little gamepad in order for this ability to work. And it's just so annoying. It's just really annoying. So yeah, it's a completely worthless ability that only works in some very specific situations. It had a very annoying gimmick, and it could have very easily just been a passive ability that no one would ever think about. So for those reasons and all those reasons, I have to say that Recon from Splatoon 1 was the absolute worst ability by a margin. So that's my list of worst Splatoon gear abilities, and now I want to hear what you guys think. What are your least favourite gear abilities? Let me know in the comments below. Anyways, like, subscribe, follow me here and here, and take care. Hold it! Oh yeah, I didn't mention the fifth non-returning gear ability. No, well, actually, I don't think that fifth gear ability is bad at all. In fact, I'll probably make a video about it because I really do want this bad boy to make a return. Hopefully we'll meet again, Bomb Sniffer. Well, that's all. Take care of yourselves.